Hello, hello, welcome. How are you guys doing? I hope everyone's doing well. Let me drop down the music a bit. It's pretty loud. That should be more like it. Hope you guys are having a great Monday. Happy Monday. And listen, my voice sounds a little better. Look, it's not 100%. Welcome. Oh, how are you guys doing? I'm hearing myself. I need to mute myself. Look at that. Drop down the music a bit. It's yes. Mute me. Mute me. There we go. There we go. You probably got that fed through a couple times. Apologies, but we're here now and we're going. So hope you guys are having a good Monday. And yeah, I have been slowly on the mend, steadily improving. I have some tea tonight. Nothing too special. It's a Yunnan, I think it's called Yunnan Gold. It's a black tea from Yunnan province, and it's nice. It's, to me, all the Yunnan black teas that I've tried, they just have a nice, gentle flavor. I will say they go great with honey. If you like tea with honey, can't go wrong with a Yunnan black tea and honey. But yeah, nice, unassuming, not aggressive, just help me kind of get through the stream. But you can see my voice is a little stronger than it's been the last couple weeks. I've been slow to improve here, but I've heard a lot of people are getting sick. So I don't think it's just me. I think there's a lot of people who've been struggling a little bit. And I lost the music here. Let's see. Wonder if I knocked it down too much because I was getting that feedback through the, I think that's what happened. Okay, perfect there. Now I can hear it. All right, I think we're doing good. Samantha, hello. Yes, you were sounding better this week. Happy Monday to you as well. Thank you, Samantha. So good to see you. What's up, Giovanno? Hi, Pastor Tanner. Hello, hello. Welcome. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for all your love and support. Guys, I'm sorry I haven't uploaded a video in a while. We launched, a new subscription model, all that type of stuff, and then I went dark. And again, I've been sick for like 4 or 5 weeks now. It's been crazy. But we're getting there. I'm on the mend. I think in another week or two here at my current pace, I'll be able to start recording again. So it is what it is. I apologize, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We're improving. I'm really excited because tonight we're focusing on finishing up John chapter 11. And then after that, I'm going to be rolling into Advent. So I'm only preaching one more time here in John, and then the rest of the year, so let's see, this sermon will be on the 24th. My next sermon will be on the 1st of December. And so we're preaching Advent starting the week after. So this will kind of be my last one in John, which is great, actually, because it wraps up John chapter 11, right? So I'll go John chapter 11, verses 45 through 57, crush this chapter, and then we'll just sit tight on chapter 12, probably until next year. And I think that's good. I think it'll be a change of pace for people. People get a different perspective, all that good stuff. So I've been enjoying John. Excuse me. Still not 100%. I've been enjoying John, though, and that said, it's really nice to get a little bit of a break once in a while and try something a little bit different. And we like going through Advent. We just started this a couple years back in my church where we actually preach, the 4 weeks of Advent on a particular topic that's associated with, with the standard Advent themes, peace and joy and all that type of stuff. And so I'll be preaching those topics, and I'm really looking forward to that. I think I started the stream a little early this evening. Not too early, but just a tad earlier than I typically do. But yeah, I got a lot to get done this evening. I want to help with the kids and all that type of stuff. And let's go ahead and read John chapter 11, 45 to 57, and then we will go from there. Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council together and said, "What are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation." But one of them, Caiaphas, who was a high priest that year, said to them, "You know nothing at all, nor do you understand what is better for you, than that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish." He did not say this of his own accord, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation. And not for the nation only, but also to gather into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. So, from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. Jesus therefore no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there to the region near the wilderness, to a town called Ephraim. And there he stayed with the disciples. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand. Many went up to the country in Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. They were looking for Jesus and saying to one another as they stood in the temple, "What do you think? That he will not come to the feast at all?" Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should let them know so they might arrest him. Very interesting passage. 2 primary things jump out to me. First is they refuse to believe the sign and instead are focused purely on their self-preservation, right? So he's performed many signs, all this type of stuff. If we let him go on like this, everyone's going to believe in him. And the Romans will come and take away our place in our nation. So notice they don't even care about the truth of the reality of who Jesus is and what he's doing. They only care about their self-preservation, right? So that's the first thing that grabs my attention. The second thing that grabs my attention is the lengths that people will go to essentially preserve themselves, right? Look, they care not about truth, but about their place, their nation, their status with the Romans, etc. They don't care about truth and authority. They have ulterior motives. And that's what grabs my attention more than anything else, because you can see throughout they have ulterior motives. They plan to put him to death. They give people orders that if he comes, kill him, all this type of stuff. And so that's kind of the direction I'm feeling thus far. Like the lengths we will go to, right? The lengths we will go to, the things we will do to stop from facing the truth. I think this is a standard human problem. I think it's something we all struggle with in many different ways, some more than others. But the fact of the matter is we have defense mechanisms that we all have put in place to stop ourselves from confronting reality. Defense mechanisms we use to prevent contact with reality. Something like that, right? And so there could be more to go on here. So we'll see, but that to me is like a very interesting concept, very interesting idea. Cal Magic says, sure is a sign of things happening today. That's a great point. That's a great point. Let me go ahead and put this down here. And I don't know, it feels like the direction I want to go, because you can see that's what this is all about. Jess has talked a lot recently about truth versus loyalty, right? And it's a theme she's really latched onto. And I think there's something to it. The idea of, do you care about the truth or do you care about being loyal, right? I saw recently on this topic a little like flow chart. And then it said something like, did they do something bad? And then the flow chart was, are they on our team or are they not on our team? And the are they on our team was, it's fine, no big deal. And then are they not on our team was something like, get them, attack them, that type of thing, right? And I think that's what a lot of people do. Rather than evaluating the concept, the topic, the idea on its own merit, rather than looking for truth, instead, we really focus on our flow chart of, are they on our team or not? And I think that can lead us astray in many ways. So, again, broadly, this is what I'm thinking. Let's read the passage again. What's the big idea? What are the big themes? Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. Again, look at that. Even that is he's not on our team. Let's go tattle, right? So I'm wanting to go this direction. If I do, verses 45 to 46, tattletale. Doesn't matter if what they did is right or wrong. So the chief priests and Pharisees gathered the council and said, what are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. Right? Verse 48. Disadvantageous for us. Verse 47. No critical self-reflection. The natural question after, what are we to do? This man performs many signs, would be, well, how does he perform these signs? Is he from God? You know what I mean? But they don't have that. They just blow right on through that. One of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said, you know nothing at all, nor do you understand what is better for you than that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish, right? And so this is Caiaphas post hoc rationalizing, but he does so in the wrong direction. So this is verse 49 through 52. Verse 49 through 52. Post hoc rationalizing our position. Something like that. Let's see. So from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. Jesus therefore no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there to the region near the wilderness, to a town called Ephraim. There he stayed with his disciples. And so from 54... Okay. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand. Many went up from the country to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. They were looking for Jesus, saying one to another as he stood in the temple, "What do you think, that he will not come to the feast at all?" Now the chief priests and Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should let them know so they might arrest him, right? And so then, I don't know, verse 57, we have something like setting a trap. Something like that. Cal Magic says, showing once again nothing is new under the sun. No doubt about that. That's exactly right. Sure is a sign of things happening today. Nothing is new under the sun. That's correct. That's correct. We as human beings, we fall into the same patterns. Sometimes I wonder if God and the angels are not bored with us, because we just keep doing the same things over and over again. Oh, this one again, right? Maybe not the same person, but the exact same pattern they've seen countless times before. Oh, man. When will we ever learn, guys? When will we ever learn? Who knows? Who knows? So this to me seems like a separate idea. It makes me think that while my thesis is good for the first half of the chapter, once we get into 53 to 57, I don't have a good treatment. So again, so from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. Jesus therefore no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there to a region near the wilderness. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand. Many of them went up from the country to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. They were looking for Jesus and saying to one another as they stood in the temple, "What do you think, that he will not come to the feast at all?" Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should let them know so they might arrest him. So to me, 54 to 56 is like background information, right? And so maybe setting a trap is appropriate here. And verse 53 also deserves like a little treatment. But 54 to 56 is background info. Just kind of setting the scene, right? But 53, there's another interesting idea, the planning, right? Planning to put him to death. So 57, I put setting the trap. 53, I'll just put planning evil for now, because that's pretty evil to plan. Cal Magic says, seeing that Jesus removing himself until the time is right suggests that God is waiting for the fullness of evil manifests itself in the powers that be. You know, that is a typical pattern that I think we see on and on throughout the Bible. And so that absolutely bears noting because, yeah, in microcosm, it's happening for Jesus in this passage. But in macrocosm, it happens in general, right? We can see, what's the passage? There's a passage that talks about like the evil of the Amorites is not yet fulfilled or something like that. Let's see. Yeah, there's something like that. I don't think it's here. But like God stalls. He like waits. And then he goes and conquers a people because something like the evil of the Amorites is not yet filled up or something like that. Yeah, I can't remember. What's up, Perk? Good to see you. Welcome. How are you? Happy Monday. Good evening to you as well. Hope all are doing well this evening. Yeah, looks like I couldn't find it, but there's something. Something like this. Almost like there's a certain threshold of evil they have to meet, you know? Yeah, clearly not seeing it. I'm sure some of you know roughly what I'm talking about, though. But to me, that's a similar idea. So I'll just put it as a note, and I can look it up later. I'll just put it in quotes so I know that it's like a different idea that you made me think of. Okay, I'm really interested in going down this path. No critical self-reflection, tattletale, disadvantageous for us, post hoc rationalizing our position, planning evil, setting a trap. These are all good things to consider, I think. Perk says, hi, doing well. Hope you are as well. How's your studies going? I'm kind of paused a little bit on studies. I did a big eldership study for my church just to kind of analyze whether or not we should go to plurality of elders. And then I also did a big epistemology study on Esther Lightcap Meek's work on epistemology. And she's really following Michael Polanyi. But I've done those, but they were explicitly for my church. So I did those and I taught lessons on them and things like that. But as far as like personal studies, I'm kind of on pause at the moment. I haven't done a lot of personal studies. I've just been focusing on getting better, right? Because I've been sick for a while. Yeah, I would love to dive into this topic. I just think it's the sort of soul topic that's really hard to treat. So I think it's good. It's a good topic to treat. But I think a lot of people, depending on how well I treat it, I think a lot of people are going to have a hard time seeing the application that I'm driving at, what it means, the implications for their lives, etc. So let's do this. Well, this is our temporary idea. Let's go ahead and go passage guide and see if we can't glean some other themes, right? And we'll also do search. I've showed you guys I really like utilizing Smart Search for a lot of these things. What are some key themes in John 11:45-57? Ambition, believe, Christianity, church. This is pretty cool. So it's got a list of topics treating this section. So info, Bible study questions, Bible study kit. Come from Lesson Maker. I think these were released with the new Logos subscriptions and base packages. I don't think these existed prior to most recent iteration of Logos. So you can see right here some key themes: ambition, believe, Christianity, church, deceit, hypocrisy, Jesus Christ, leadership, ministry, miracles, motives, power, prophecy, religion, self-centeredness, self-righteousness, unbelievers. So I'm seeing motives, self-centeredness, self-righteousness, ambition, deceit, hypocrisy, all as key themes. Oh, and you can see some key questions. Without naming names, what is the most dishonest and self-serving person you've ever known? There you go, dishonest and self-serving, right? What are examples of selfishness you see on a typical day? How do you deal with problem people in your life? How did many of the Jews who had come to visit Mary respond to Jesus' miracle? Who was told about Jesus' miracle? What did the Sanhedrin fear? What did Caiaphas say about Jesus? These are great questions. These sorts of questions, these are fantastic. So these sorts of things, they're great to just drop in your sermon. Notice that I never would have referenced this. I didn't even know I had it. Never would have referenced this outside of the recommendation. And any number of these questions can be included in the sermon, and they're going to pack a punch because, stop and ask questions during your sermon. It gets people thinking. They're sitting there in the pew. They're not actually reflecting on the content, and then you force them to reflect by asking a hard question. That's great. Great options here. Perk says, I've noticed you seem to do lessons/lectures with your church during the live streams. I think that's a very nice idea. I wish all churches did that. Oh, I see. So you mean like the separate ones I do on different like weekdays or things like that, where I'm teaching on a particular topic or idea? Is that what you're referring to, Perk? Cal Magic says, the idea of fullness in what we are chatting about means something that reaches the point to being useful for God's purposes. That's really good. Because, again, it's until the fullness of time, Jesus isn't going to act. He's not going to do certain things. And so what Cal Magic is saying is the definition behind that is it's got to be useful for God's purpose and plan. So that's kind of what Jesus is waiting on here. That makes a lot of sense. So this Bible study question section is excellent already. Like I said, without that smart search, I wouldn't have found it. Let's read the synopsis. John 11:45-47 presents several key themes related to the aftermath of Jesus' miraculous raising of Lazarus. One of the primary themes is contrasting responses to Jesus' miracle, with some believing in him while others rejecting him. That's right. And if you want to focus on rejection, right? Ooh, I almost want to call it something like the psychology of rejection. Something like that. The ones with the whiteboard. I like that you talk with your church members, and instead of explaining everything, you get your church to participate and think and find answers together. Yeah, that's exactly what you're talking about then, Perk. Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, I'm a teacher at heart. I think even before I'm a pastor, I'm a teacher, and it's just the sort of thing that comes naturally to me. So I appreciate that, and I enjoy it very much. I enjoy those times when we can step aside and just walk through a concept, a topic, an idea together and try to understand its implications, right? So, yeah. Stu says, every time I try to pay attention, I get assaulted by a 4-year-old. That makes sense, Stu. That happens. Yeah, I understand. I resemble that remark. Appreciate you, man. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for swinging by. Angie, what is up? Hot fire. Pastor Tanner drinking tea. And look, I know I haven't in a while. I still love tea. And I've been drinking this all day. This is Yunnan Gold. So it's a black tea from Yunnan Province. And let's just finish it. It's good. I like black tea from Yunnan. It's got a very unassuming flavor. It's not too strong. I feel like you can't oversteep it. And that said, it's not the first thing I ever turn to. It's not like I'm like, ooh, I'm really wanting a black tea from Yunnan, but it's the sort of thing I would drink almost any time, which is perfect. So yeah, good to see you, Angie. I appreciate you. Thanks for swinging by. I'll just do water the rest of the stream. Perk says, by the way, Pastor, did the Jewish leaders reject Jesus strongly because they expected the Messiah to come and conquer their enemies, subjugate the Romans under him? So now they're looking down on him. I think some. I don't think all of the Jews acted that way, but I think some of them did. So I actually think the Jews closest to him did that. So the disciples and, those kind of who expected him to come and conquer the Romans. But I don't think that's true of all the Jews, right? I think the high priests and others, they saw him as a threat, and they didn't like him from the beginning because he was not from within their established orders. I think if Jesus had risen up from within the ranks and he followed all the things that good Jews were supposed to do, they might have been more accepting of him. But because he was outside the norm and he didn't follow all their established conventions, I think many of those insider Jews were very threatened by him and wanted to get rid of him. But I do think the Jews closest to him expected him to be a conquering king. So like his apostles, his disciples, right? Perk says, basically, how's this man's message going to benefit me? That's a natural way I think a lot of people think. And I think many of them don't even know that they're thinking it. Not the Jews, the Jewish leaders. I don't think the Jewish leaders were thinking that way. I think the Jewish leaders were very threatened. I think that's just the answer. I don't think they were thinking, oh, he's supposed to be a conquering king, and he's not. I think they were just very threatened, and they were just looking at any way that they could get rid of him. They'd kind of already assumed, because he broke their molds, they'd kind of already assumed he can't be sent from God. All right, let's keep on with the search we've got. The passage also highlights the political concerns of the Jewish leaders, who feared that Jesus' growing opportunity might lead the Roman intervention in the destruction of their temple and nation. So notice again the political concerns here. How's it going to benefit us, right? Oh, put that in the wrong spot. My bad. Another significant theme is the prophecy of Caiaphas, the high priest, who unknowingly predicted Jesus... Ooh, I almost spilled my water. Apologies. Who unknowingly predicted Jesus' sacrificial death for the nation. I want to dig into that quote further because it's very interesting. What did Caiaphas mean by it? I think he means that, look, the nation doesn't understand it, but we got to get this guy killed because it will save our nation, i.e. their narrative about the Romans has got to be true, and so we've got to circumvent that. They feel the need to circumvent their current narrative about the Romans. Cal Magic says, you can possibly take the sermon and use it as a bridge right into Advent. Ooh, can you flesh that out further, Cal Magic? Because I would be very intrigued to do something like that. I just want to know kind of what lines you're thinking along. Because that'd be a great idea. Okay, let's keep going here. The text also touches on the themes of ceremonial cleansing and preparation for the Passover as people began to gather in Jerusalem for the festival. To me, that's an incidental detail. Lastly, the passage shows Jesus withdrawing to a village called Ephraim, illustrating the growing tension and danger surrounding his ministry. Yep. Perk says, I've thought those leaders represent modern deniers. People want him to show before him. But if he did, will they really accept him? Will they truly reject all the pleasures of life for Jesus? I doubt it. Yeah. And I think we constantly get New Testament, not even New Testament, biblical examples of people who would not believe irrespective of what happened, right? They would not believe, they would not trust, they would not follow. Doesn't even matter like what happened or why, you know? So I think that happens time and time again. All right. Well, I think that's a good start. I'm kind of wondering which direction I want to go now. The themes show me I'm along the right lines. I kind of want to dig into this Caiaphas prediction a little bit. And then I want to further flesh out these political concerns, right? Because I think this is a big deal right here in the text. Cal Magic says, how the Pharisees were approaching Jesus and how we approach him with love, hope, etc. through truth versus self-interest, their terms. Oh, I like that. Yep. So we could call it almost something like approaching Jesus on God's terms rather than our own. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Lead into Advent. Well, let's do this now. Passage guide. And I want to dig into the Caiaphas little section in particular. 49 to 52. Let's start with Carson. 49 to 52 in particular, right here. Presiding over the Sanhedrin was Caiaphas, who was high priest that year. Joseph Caiaphas had been appointed high priest in AD 18 by the Roman prefect Valerius Gratus. His father-in-law was Annas, who he himself filled the office during the years AD 6 to 15, and whose influence prevailed long after his term of office. Caiaphas remained in office until AD 36, when he and Pontius Pilate were both sacked at the same time. Only John and Matthew mention Caiaphas by name in connection with Jesus' death. It has often been suggested that because John stipulates that Caiaphas was high priest that year, he has been influenced by pagan priestly systems in the Hellenistic world where priests were often appointed for a year, and thus betrays his ignorance of Jewish custom. But the conclusion is much too hasty. The demonstrative, that, may simply mean that fateful year, or that memorable year, referring to Jesus' death, a solution favored by the repetition of the words in 51 and 18:13, and one that can be traced back to origin. Alternatively, it must be remembered that although the Old Testament specified that the high priest, once appointed, was to serve for life, in reality the office had long been political football, high priests being appointed and deposed at will or whim of the overlord. Caiaphas, in fact, displayed extraordinary sticking power for the times, 18 years. John's remark may therefore reflect his intimate knowledge of the tenuousness of the office. Caiaphas's opening blast, "You know nothing at all," is the ancient equivalent of, "You don't know what you're talking about." Even so, it is certainly not a reflection of Dale Carnegie's school of diplomacy, and it nicely confirms the judgment that Josephus was that the Sadducees were barbarous and wild even towards those of their own party. Though it must be remembered that Josephus, as a Pharisee, was scarcely an unbiased observer. As the presiding officer, Caiaphas delivers his own opinion. "It is better for you that one man die for the people than that the whole nation perish." Double meanings run to the end of verse 52. Johannine irony reaches its apogee here. The legal precedents for Caiaphas' judgment are complex. His reasoning is rather simple, both from the perspective of political prudence in international realism, what will save the nation, and from the perspective of what is best for the ruling party, it is better for you. The execution of Jesus is indicated, and so he died. But the nation perished anyway, not because of Jesus' activity, but because of the constant mad search for political solutions where there was little spiritual renewal. Justice is sacrificed to expediency. When Caiaphas argues that Jesus must die for the people, huper tu lau, he is using sacrificial language. He certainly did not mean this in the Christian sense. He probably meant that Jesus was to be devoted to death, sacrificed as a scapegoat, in order to spare the nation and its leaders. Readers living after the cross should not help but see more. In this sentence, Jews are referred both to as a nation, ethnos, and as a people, laos, and both terms are later taken over by Christians and applied to the church. So this is really good. And I think it gets at the issue, the political expediency, right? And I think that's really at the heart of the passage. Is will you do something because it gets you the right ends, or will you trust God that the means matter? So this is Carson. I think this is close to getting at the heart of what it's talking about. Burke says, I guess that also applies to many Christians, something to keep in mind. I myself sometimes wondering, if push comes to shove, will I be able to stick to my guns and do what or not do what Lot's wife did? Yeah, exactly. And I think that's part of what's going on in the situation, right? They feel like their backs are against the wall, and we'll see if the smile face crashes my computer. Survey says, what will it do with the smile face? Oh, it put it in. Look at that giant smile face. Woo! There you go. That's awesome. I can't believe it did it. That's what you get with just a copy and paste. I will say the notes function has gotten better with time. Angie, I feel the same as you. Look at that thing. It's giant too. It like emphasized it. So good. So good. Thank you, Perk, for the comment. Excuse me. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. The people of the ends versus the people of the means. Very interesting. And I think this leads right into what Cal Magic was talking about earlier, right? When he explicitly says, like, this can lead us into Advent. The Pharisees approach Jesus as they're the people of the ends. And they would argue the ends justifies the means, right? versus the means is all that matters. The end will take care of itself. To me, this is a position and stance of faith. Bless you. Thank you, Perk. Appreciate that. Yeah, very nice. Hey, 2 seconds, guys. I'm going to blow my nose. I can feel myself getting plugged up, okay? I want to be clear. Because I don't like being sick. We'll get out of this soon enough. Be right back. I'm going to get more water, too. All right, y'all, I'm back. I'm back. George Haven, hello, welcome. Good to see you. Blessings, Pastor Tanner. Good to see you're on the mend. Yes, I'm getting much better. Still not 100%, but man, I'm leaps and bounds ahead of where I was a week ago. So thank you. I appreciate that, George Haven. Much love. Much love. Let's see. Perk says, oh, right. I remember you had the flu recently. Looks like you've almost fully recovered. Hope you don't get sick again because of winter. Having the flu sucks. Yeah, and I don't know if it was the flu. Had a lot of symptoms that were similar to that. But yes, I'm on the mend. It's taken a while. It's been really slow going on the recovery, but I'm starting to get there. What's up, Schwerbear? How you doing, Pastor? I'm doing fantastic. How are you? Hope you're well. Hope you're enjoying life. Good to see you. Thanks for swinging by. Cal Magic says, my thought bubble at this moment is around the true meaning of the full armor of God and what that really means in its fullness expressed in us. I like that. Full armor of God. Cool. Well, I really do want to preach on ends versus means. And because I think that's at the heart of the issue. The Pharisees, through and through, are people of the ends. The ends are what matter, and they will do whatever they need to post hoc to rationalize their behaviors because the ends justifies the means, right? And they're the evil ones, okay? So if you are of the spirit, of the heart, of the attitude of the ends justifies the means, and you'll figure out how to say, you know what, it's fine, our behavior, in fact, it's good. Look. It's good. Nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish, right? Like, we're being expedient. We're making the hard choices. We're making the hard decisions. And we understand this, the complicated calculus that is involved here. And of course, what you're supposed to see is no. You need to use the right means and trust God with the ends, right? I think that's the big difference. So, yeah. Angie Jags, much love. Appreciate those hearts. Yes, we're on the mend. We're doing okay. Very nice. So, let's, now I'm going to do something a little different. because I really do want to preach on this idea, and I think it's at the heart of the passage, right? Because that's what they're doing. They're justifying their behavior because they think the ends justifies the means. Let's search for some weird stuff in the smart search. So let's try just the ends justifies the means. Let's start with that. Yes, go ahead and ask a question, Perk. No issue. And we'll see if this gets us anything. Okay, it grabbed mere discipleship, radical Christianity to a rebellious world, social ethics, shamed of the gospel, and then some Seventh-day Adventist stuff. Let's see what it says. The phrase "the end justifies the means" is a controversial philosophical concept with varying interpretations and applications. One article describes it as a popular philosophy that purports to support otherwise immoral or evil practices if a greater good can be achieved. This idea is closely related to utilitarianism, which seeks to maximize desired outcomes like happiness or reduce suffering for the greatest number of people. So this is an interesting idea. Utilitarianism has a lot of its own criticisms as an ethical philosophy. Oops. Man. There we go. Keep fat fingering it. Okay. However, from a Christian perspective, this approach is generally not supported. One article argues that biblical Christian social ethics defies easy categorization as either deontological or teleological, emphasizing that evil means are never justified or permissible, regardless of the intent and outcome. This is sort of an absolutist view of ethics. Common stance within Christian circles. It states that good ends can only be achieved through good means, stressing the indissoluble relationship between means and ends. In the context of religious revival, one historical figure, Finney, controversially suggested that the success of a measure designed to promote religious revival demonstrates its wisdom, implying that positive outcomes justify the methods used. However, this view is not universally accepted within Christian thought, as another source indicates that the means employed by God must be in harmony with his character. Yeah, I don't know if I want to get this deep into ethics, so we might have to pull up and call an audible here. Don't get me wrong, I love personally studying these ideas, but I don't think I can get up and preach this idea, right? Because this gets into complicated issues as well. But now, just personally, now I want to dig into the concept of if the ends justifies the means is evil, what do we make of Christian shrewdness? And I've actually talked about this many times. It's a concept that is unpopular in Christian circles, but it's the idea that we need to be shrewd as Christians. First of all, jeez, I can't spell it repeatedly. There we go. First of all, Jesus criticizes us. Yeah, so there's these two aspects. They're just confusing. This is a perfect example. Look at this parable. This is so weird, and I never know what to make of it, because you don't want to fall into the ends justifies the means camp, right? He also said to the disciples, there was a rich man who had a manager, and charges were brought to him that this man was wasting his possessions. And he called him and said to him, what is this that I hear about you? Turn in the account of your management, for you no longer can be my manager. And the manager said to him, what shall I do, since my master is taking the management away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I've decided what to do, so that when I am removed from my management, people may receive me into their houses. So summoning his master's debtors one by one, he said to the first, how much do you owe my master? He said, 100 measures of oil. He said to him, take your bill, sit down quickly and write 50. Then he said to another, and how much do you owe? He said, 100 measures of wheat. He said, take your bill and write 80. The master commended the dishonest manager for his shrewdness. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, they may receive you into the eternal dwellings. One who is faithful in very little is also faithful in much. One who is dishonest in very little is also dishonest in much. If then you have not been faithful in unrighteous wealth, who will entrust to you the true riches? And if you have not been faithful in that which is another's, who will give you that which is your own? No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. What is he talking about? I have always been super intrigued and baffled by this parable, right? Luke 16, 1 to 17. Okay, Luke 16, 1 to 17. So there's that challenging one. Luke 16, 1 to 17. That's an issue. Unrighteous manager. Then we have, there's one more. Oh, there's one more in the New Testament that always gets me. Well, he just says shrewd as serpents and gentle as doves, right? Yeah, this one. Behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves, so be wise as serpents and gentle as doves, innocent as doves. Be aware of men, for they will deliver you over to courts and flog you in their synagogues. You will be dragged before governors and kings for my sake, to bear witness before them and the Gentiles. When they deliver you, do not be anxious about how you are to speak or what you are to say, for what you are to say will be given you in that hour. For it is not you who speaks, but the Spirit speaking through you. So again, this verse right here. What does it mean to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves? I think that's a challenging one as well, right? Cal Magic, I see you there. God sending a lying spirit makes the issue really uncomfortable for some. There you go. That actually came up in our Q&A this week too. Somebody brought that up. So like, man, what's going on here? There's a lot of difficulty, I think, in these passages. All right. Perk, I'll skip your question for now so I can finish this thought and then I'll come back to it. Perk says, I've wondered the same. What's the point with that parable? It seems like choosing kindness to others over righteousness. Many people are capable of doing horrible things just because the rules say so, right? Well, to me, it's not kindness. He's trying to earn their loyalty before he gets fired. He's about ready to get fired, and he's trying to earn their loyalty before he goes, right? So that he's made a friend that can help him out after the fact. Fuzz, what is up? Been a minute. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Thanks for swinging by. Seems that shrewdness in Scripture normally is speaking to taking advantage of others for financial gain. So the end of money to bless others, and even our church, doesn't justify the means of sinfully lying, right? Well, and that's kind of the topic we're wrestling with here for sure. Oh, there you go, Perk. Like the people who protected the Jews during Germany's crazy years. Well, and if you read, I would highly recommend this book to everyone. It's, what's the name of that family? Maybe this search will find it. No. There's a name of a family, and they famously harbored Jews during the Holocaust. And more than one time, they get in a situation where they have to lie to stop the, they have to lie in order to stop the Nazis from, taking the Jews and leaving with them. And the one sister is comfortable lying, and the others are not. And they get into many situations that are tough. I forget what it's called. Oh, right. Strats then. Haha. Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting one. So anyway, very challenging question. And I don't think I can preach a sermon on this. This is appropriate for a study. I'm so interested in digging into it. But I don't know if I can preach a sermon on it, or if I do, I have to go very high level over the formal, philosophical, ethical stuff. All right, Perk, gonna come back to your question now. Oh, George Haven says, do you think there's any connection with the cities of refuge and one person dying for the nation? That's a great question, right? That's a really, really good question. And it might be the source of Caiaphas's point, right? So if that's true, it may not be the ends justifies the means, but it instead may be like the manipulation of one of God's commands or concepts, right? That's a really good question. Definitely worth digging into. Thanks, George. Okay, want to come back. Perk asks, how do you know you have faith in God and not just become indifferent about an issue? Like, what does having faith look or feel like? All right, let's go to the big camera for this. Faith is a really interesting concept, and it's one of those things we talk about all the time in Christian circles, but I don't think we define very often, and it's something that I've thought a lot about over the years. My recent foray into epistemology has made me think that faith often has to do with action, has to do with how we live, the actions we're taking. I recently was talking to somebody about epistemology, and they said, in regards to belief, what hill are you willing to die on? And I actually think this is a really good way of putting it, because a hill to die on is an action. Now, it doesn't mean you have to literally die, but is the way you're living your life in alignment with what you say you believe? You see what I mean? Like, to me, that's being willing to die on the hill. For a lot of people, a hill to die on is like a hypothetical, abstract, conceptual idea. If there was a gun to your head and somebody said, deny Jesus, you would say no, right? But that sort of hypothetical is not real. That has happened throughout history with some people, sure. But in reality, I think you demonstrate whether or not you're willing to die on a hill based upon your day-to-day and week-to-week actions, how you living. If your life is in keeping with the faith you proclaim, to me that shows that you have faith. I don't believe that faith is a feeling, but I believe that they are actions in alignment with a professed belief. So, if I say I have faith in Jesus, well, am I living my life how Jesus would command me to do? Am I living my life how Jesus requires? To me, that shows that I have faith. Just like James says. He says, tell me you have faith without works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. There's a huge difference there. And I think there are a lot of people in Christian churches nowadays, especially in Protestantism in particular, that think that faith is something they say, they confess, they proclaim. But in reality, if you take James seriously, I think faith is not something you say, confess, or proclaim so much as it is something you live, something you act, something you do. So, my hill to die on is demonstrated by how I'm living my life every single day. And if I'm living my life every single day in ways that are contrary to the commandments of Jesus, to the requirements of Jesus, then I don't have faith. But if I am living my life in alignment with what Jesus would say each and every day, then I might have faith. So, another caveat here. I might have faith. There are a lot of people who think they're going to get into heaven because they take all the right actions. They do all the right things. Okay? But I'm also not interested in behavior modification. A lot of people think if I just take the right actions or do the right things, I'm saved. I don't think that's true. I think you're getting the most important aspects right, but that doesn't mean you have faith either. Faith to me not only takes the right actions, but faith to me leads to an internal inward transformation that is consistent with those actions. So I say all the time, sin I conceive of in two ways. There are sin beliefs and there are sin action, or not sin beliefs. There are sin nature and sin actions. And if you're just focused on the actions, you can clean up all your sin actions, but you can still have a sin nature. Okay? Your sin nature needs to be purified. You need to have the Holy Spirit come and take out your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. Then if you do that, then your sin actions will clear up all on their own. Sin actions are like symptoms. I don't care what you're doing. If you're prone to anger or lust or fearfulness or you're a liar or a thief, any of those things, they're just symptoms. They're symptoms of your sin nature. Now, I can punish you.
I don't know why you're clapping. I'm talking about
thanks for the follow. Appreciate that. Now, I can punish you so that you stop taking sin actions, but that doesn't mean I've changed your nature. And the change of nature is really what's essential for salvation. Okay? So, in reality, just like Jesus says, he says, you Pharisees clean the outside of the cup, but the inside is still dirty. He says, clean the inside of the cup, and the outside will be clean also. And that's what we're really after in Christianity. An internal transformation that then, over time, through sanctification, works itself out in outward behaviors. You cure the disease, the symptoms take care of themselves. You treat the symptoms, you still got the disease. Okay. What does this have to do with faith? I think a true faith, a genuine faith, yes, is demonstrated with your behaviors, but those behaviors are the result of the inward transformation. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven, they are the ones who will enter. But out of what spirit do they do the will of the Father? Are you the elder brother? What did the elder brother do in the tale of the prodigal son? Oh, he did the will of the Father, but begrudgingly and with a grumbling spirit and irritated. Father, all these years I've worked for you, and you never even gave me a fatted calf to party with my friends. But here, this son of yours, who was so wicked and so evil and who left, he comes home, he doesn't do anything right, and yet you immediately slay the fatted calf and throw a party for him? Right? The elder brother cleaned the outside of the cup. He's a Pharisee. He doesn't have inward transformation. He's not doing the will of the Father for the right reasons. Whereas the prodigal son, who went away and then came back, the prodigal son knows what it's like to walk in the world. He knows what it feels like to have gone astray. And he's so grateful that his father accepted him. The prodigal son, he's now going to live right. But it's because he's inwardly been transformed. So, faith. Faith looks like actions. Actions of obeying all the commandments of Jesus. That's what faith looks like. But those actions must come out of an overflow of a transformed heart. You're so grateful to God for what he's done in your life that he's forgiven you, and you can't wait to obey. If you're just taking actions because you want God to love you more, you got it backwards. Putting the cart before the horse, right? Instead, you need to have a changed heart, be transformed from within, and then after you're transformed from within, then you begin to act in alignment with the spirit of what God has given you, right? Praise Jesus. Much love to you, Angie. So that's how I think of it. Faith is, first and foremost, actions that are the natural outflow of an inward transformation that God has effected in your heart. So you need to repent and believe and ask God to continue to change your character, that you will live out what Jesus has called you to do from within. Boom. I would drop the mic, but it's expensive and I don't want to damage it. How does that sound? It's a great question, Perk. It's a real big challenge. All right, I'm going to catch up on chat while you respond. Cal Magic says, faith is actively building the kingdom of God, is my thought. That's right. Those actions. You pray, our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And then you act in alignment with that. It's the Nehemiah principle. You pray, but you also act. The Nehemiah principle. Nehemiah, they're rebuilding the wall, and there's some enemies about to come get them. And they don't just pray and say, God, take care of these enemies, and then go to the wall without preparations. They pray, and they also carry their sword. They pray, and they take action. Same as what Cal Magic is saying. You pray, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, and then you act in alignment with that prayer. And I'm going to do what I can to fulfill that commission, right? So I agree with you, Cal Magic. But those actions need to come out of the overflow of a transformed heart, right? Let's go, hot fire. Much love, Angie. It's been a while since I got my soapbox on here. Loving it. Let's see. Fuzz says, Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for, assurance about what we do not see. Faith is multidimensional, it seems. Actions yielded by a regenerate mind and heart that hopes in the one true God that they know died for them. Yeah, that's a good one. Good summary. Tanner with the long-winded way to get to that answer. That's all I know, man. Typical elder. There you go. That's all I know. I only know the long-winded way. You know what's so funny, Fuzz? I had somebody ask me in the Q&A this Sunday. They said, can you give me a short definition of sin? And I just told them no, right? And then I actually told them, I said, I can give you a long-winded, meandering definition of sin, and they laughed, right? It was hilarious. It was hilarious. And then I proceeded to do just that, Fuzz. So I got it. I got it covered. That's awesome. George Haven says, faith to me begins with believing loyalty. I like that. That's good. That's good. The longer you've been a pastor, it'll get longer. Well, there you go. Right. Perk says, so faith is an action. That's interesting because I've heard the same about love. Love is an action, not a feeling. I agree. Yeah. In general, you see that in the Bible, that often love is taking a right action. And there are a lot of people who think I don't love them with the actions I take towards them, but I do love them, and I'm taking actions that I think are best for them. Right. George Haven, all Abraham had was believing loyalty. Hey, there you go. That's a good one. And then, of course, Abraham, if you read Romans, is the paragon of faith. Right. So that's a good one. Really nice. Perk says, what about faith that moves mountains? Is the moving mountains part figurative speech? I wonder why people aren't capable of healing like the apostles did. Ooh, I think that's a good one, Perk. So to me, faith that moves mountains is that unyielding, unwavering faith, so long as you believe you're on the right path. Okay. So if you believe you are truly following God, you're on the right path, you're on the right mission, you're on the right journey, and you keep running into roadblocks, the fact that you keep going in spite of the roadblocks, nothing can deter you. You keep pushing, you keep moving forward. God would have me to do this. I'm going to press on. I'm going to persevere. Perseverance, that's key. To me, faith that can move mountains is that perseverance. It's that perseverance that says, I am going to continue on irrespective of what obstacles come in my path. Now, there's also like a bullheaded ignorance that says, I'm going to persevere, and you're just on the wrong path, and God is trying desperately to get you off that dumb path you're on, okay? Those are different, and it takes wisdom to know the difference between the two. But provided you are on God's mission, you are on his right path, if you persevere, that's the faith that can move mountains. Now, to your second question, why people aren't capable of healing like the apostles did. I actually have a unique stance on this. And so I'm not a cessationist, right? There are, theologians in our day and age who are cessationists. They would say a lot of the sign gifts have ceased. And the idea is that the sign gifts, are something that was for the early church, because the early church, God, whenever there's a major transition or shift in the spiritual state of God's people, he often introduces that spiritual shift with signs. And so there's these sign gifts. We're going from the Old Testament to the New Testament, the establishment of the church. It's fitting that there would be signs. And so God gives them those spiritual gifts, in the early church, so they can build the church. But as we focus on the word and the written revelation of God going forward into the church's history, those signs fade away. Okay, that's a cessationist position. I am not a cessationist. Okay, I do not believe that's what God does. I have a very unique stance on this. And I hold this loosely. This is very tentative, right? If you ask me how committed to this I am, I would say 55%. But I actually hold to the position that, and I'm combining two ideas here. Combining my eschatological approach, which is postmillennialism generally. And what that says is we're in the early church, okay? Postmillennialism says that God is going to continue to work and move, in society and culture, and continue to bring about more and more believers, more and more influence. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. If you're an optimistic amillennialist, I account that as the same as postmillennialism. I'm good with either of those. So I generally have that approach. But kind of this idea that it's the early church and we're going to keep moving forward and keep conquering with the force of the gospel. I combine that with what I see in the book of Acts. And so my stance is that the book of Acts is almost like a foreshadowing, a precursor. In the book of Acts, God gives us a wide range of what the church is going to do throughout time. And it might take thousands and thousands of years for that to happen. And so in the book of Acts, we essentially have a foreshadowing of what is to come in the future. So Perk, what I would say, why aren't people capable of healing like the apostles did? I think many of those gifts are yet to come because the church grows through stages, and we're still kind of in the early church, and we haven't gotten to that point where we're able to do many things like that yet. It's not our time, if that makes sense, right? And again, 55% on that, but it's kind of a unique, weird position I hold to. So that's my take on it, Perk, is that those things are still yet to come in church history, right? We might see a ramping up of that even in our lifetime, don't know. But like you see it in fits and starts throughout church history, and I think it could just continue on. But again, I hold to that very loosely. Cal Magic says, read Andrew Murray's School of Prayer to start on moving mountains. Also, putting on the full armor of God. There you go, Cal Magic. Very nice. Hello, VidPro Dad. If you look at love as charity, it's a little easier to see it as an action. That makes a lot of sense, right? We talk about charity, and the word in our English context often takes on the connotation of helping people, doing good works on behalf of people, being charitable, donating, But if you see that as love in action, that makes a lot of sense. And of course, if you take it out of the English context, there's very good reasons to translate some of the Greek words as charity, right? So, yeah, very interesting. Perk says, doesn't the book of Acts only show apostles healing? I don't think regular members were shown doing any miracles. I don't know about that. I don't know. I think there's some people in the book of Acts that do signs that aren't apostles, but certainly the apostles are the focus of the story. That's for sure. That's for sure. Okay, guys, what else? I think I'm going to wrap up here, at least in regards to the sermon preparation. We made great progress. I've got a path I'm interested in going down. I really do think the passage is about this ends versus means question. But how do I make that accessible? That's my concern here. So I'm not really sure where I want to go with the rest of the sermon. If you guys have any other questions, I'm happy to converse and discuss about it. But otherwise, I'm going to probably wrap up here soon. I got to record a vlog for the Patreon, and I'm going to go ahead and help with the kids, right? VidPro Dad says, can you explain a little where you are joined late? Where I am in my sermon preparation, or where I'm at theologically, because we kind of went off track and started talking about some theological topics because people had some questions. Much love to you, Angie. Appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, what's your sermon about? Perfect. So here's the passage, and this will be a good way to wrap it up. Thank you, VidPro. So I'm on the last of John. This is John chapter 11, verses 45 to 57. So last of John chapter 11, and then after that, I'm going to be going into Advent. Okay. And so if we just look at John chapter 11, it says this. This is right after he raises Lazarus from the dead. Many of the Jews, therefore, who had come with Mary and had seen what he did, believed in him. But some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. So the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered the council and said, what are we to do? For this man performs many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation. But one of them, Caiaphas, who was a high priest that year, said to them, you know nothing at all, nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish. He did not say this of his own accord, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus would die for the nation. And not only the nation, but also to gather into one the children of God who were scattered abroad. So from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. Jesus therefore no longer walked openly among the Jews, but went from there to the region near the wilderness to a town called Ephraim, and there he stayed with the disciples. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand, and many went up from the country to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. They were looking for Jesus and had said one to another as they stood in the temple, what do you think, that he will not come to the feast at all? Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should let them know, so that they might arrest him. And so, to me, the thing that jumped out more than anything was that for the Pharisees, the ends justify the means. You can see they are doing all sorts of post hoc rationalization to try to figure out how they can be ethically justified in trying to put Jesus to death. And so that's why Caiaphas says, he goes, it's better. It's better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish, right? Hey, we got to make the hard decisions around here. And this is the decision we're making, right? We don't want to kill Jesus, but at the end of the day, we'll lose the whole nation if we don't do this, right? And so it's just this, the ends justify the means kind of perspective, right? Ends justify the means kind of perspective. But in reality, they are choosing on behalf of themselves. And I just thought of an illustration. You guys won't probably know what this means, but there's an old illustration I'm aware of that is of a king halting the production of cotton mills because he hadn't come up with the technology. It was threatening his business. In that sense, there's a pattern here of not embracing. Pattern of not embracing technology or advancement. And now I'm reminded of expressive individualism. in the age of authenticity. So anyway, though, it's the ends justify the means. And look, we don't have faith that if we just follow the right means, God's going to bless us. Instead, we need to actively manipulate the situation to get the right outcome, right? That's their approach. So that's the sermon. Hopefully that helps, VidPro. Katana, hello. Good to see you. Hi, 2 biddies. Thank you. Appreciate that, Katana. Much love to you. Welcome. Thanks for swinging by. All right. Perk says, I see. Thanks, Pastor, for a well-thought-out answer. It was something I'd wondered about that for a minute. I do have one class question if you have time. Yeah, go for it. And we'll wrap up here, y'all. One last question from Perk. Yeah, again, okay, here we go. How does Christ love look like? I've read of one of Paul's letters where it looks like respect your neighbor, don't wish evil on him, and be kind to him. Just be good and chill with people. Yeah, I don't think that's the approach, but you have to be very careful because to me, there's a ditch on either side of the road here, right? The ditch on one side of the road is what you're describing. Just be good and chill with people, right? Don't rock the boat. Don't upset people. Don't say things that are disrespectful or challenging or rude, right? And I don't think that's truly love, actually. Like, I think if I truly love somebody and I feel that like they're hurting themselves or damaging themselves, like I'm going to be willing to tell them. I'm going to be willing to say something about it. And so that is like one aspect. But I think oftentimes there's a ditch on the other side of the road where some people are like, they need to hear love and, tough love. That's what they need to hear. So I'm going to tell them the hard truth. And in reality, it's not tough love. It's just being mean and rude and disrespectful, right? And I think there's a healthy balance here between the two. Like if you look at Christ, he adapts his message based on who he's talking to and what they need, and also by having some discernment in where they're at in life and where their heart is. So he talks with Zacchaeus a little different than he talks with the woman at the well, a little different than he talks with, Mary and Martha. It's because he knows what each needs, and he's able to challenge people in certain ways, in loving ways, but he's also like gentle and respectful with people who are hurting, right? And I think that's the fine line, the fine balance. So if I've earned the right to tell somebody a hard truth, I won't hesitate to tell them. I've had some difficult conversations with people in my life where I feel like it's my responsibility to say something that's difficult or challenging to them, even though they might not like what I have to say. With others, there have been times where I just kept my mouth shut because I don't feel like I've earned that right. And I believe in playing the long game with people, right? In our day and age, I think you got to build relationships with people in many ways and take your time with people because we're so polarized and tribalized in our day and age that I think it's easy for people to put you in a box and just say, oh, they're one of those kind of people, and they'll leave you alone. I've had many people tell me, I hesitated to interact with you at first because I knew you were a pastor and I just thought you would be a certain way and that I didn't want to talk religion with you. But after I did, I learned that you're actually fun to talk with religion about, right? Well, there you go. But I had to earn that right with people, and it takes a lot of time. So that's kind of my jam. Talking about Perk. So don't just be rude in the name of tough love. Don't just be wishy-washy and say, it's all good, they'll figure it out, and I'm never going to offend. Somewhere in between. Discern the person, discern the situation, discern your relationship, and discern whether or not you feel like they're ready to accept a hard truth, and then take a step of faith, right? And always do so with love and respect. So hopefully that helps. Much love to you, Angie. I appreciate you. All right, let's see. Cal Magic says, love is a servant attitude to their betterment, like a man loving his wife, making her clean and pure for God. I think that's a great statement. A servant of attitude for their betterment. And so you want to not fall into either ditch, Perk? You want to not fall into either ditch? Then just have this servant attitude of what is for their good. What is their betterment? My mic should not be dying. I'm not showing it over here, Perk. So unless like I'm having a competing sound that's getting in the way, or maybe I'm having an internet connection issue, but my mic should not be dying. It's plugged into, permanent power, right? So that's kind of my approach. I love what Cal Magic said. Love is a servant attitude for their betterment. If you're genuinely asking all of those questions about what's for their good, I think you'll take some of the approaches that I'm talking about here. All right, VidPro, why would you think the end's justifying the means if we shouldn't do, even if the good comes from it, even if the goal is for a good cause? I'm just thinking about that because it would make me think of my choices, avoiding compromising my values just for self-preservation. That's exactly right, VidPro. And those are some of the complexities that we dug into. You know, I'm with you. It's not a difficult, or it's not an easy topic. You know, that's the first thing I thought of when I read the passage. You can see the Pharisees and the chief priests, they're really about the ends justifying the means. But once we started digging into it, there is so much complexity regarding different ethical theories, right? Utilitarianism versus, you know, other different approaches to ethics. Deontological ethics, teleological ethics. Can the ends ever justify the means? What about those passages in the New Testament where it talks about being shrewd? You know, we talked about the unjust manager, right? Who is shrewd, but he essentially tries to win the support of, you know, the unrighteous manager, that win the support of his boss's customers. It is a very complicated situation. So now I'm like hesitant on how much I'm going to dig into that. Right. Perk says, I think your audio has issues. I didn't hear what you said over the last 5 minutes. I have my Streamlabs right off to the side here, and it's showing that my audio is coming through just fine. Now, I don't have audio back in my ears, so I can't tell for sure. Did anyone else have issues hearing me? If you had issues hearing me, let me know. If it was clear audio for you, then Perk, what you might need to do is go, no issues. Okay, Mike sounds fine on Twitch. You might, Perk, have to go back and listen to it. Audio is good for me on Twitch. Okay, so looks like, Perk, the audio is good. So maybe just catch the recording of that last little bit. All right, appreciate you. VidPro Dad, agree Caiaphas acted out of fear, knowing he was innocent, also knew he had pressure above and the Jews. I'm going to write that down, copy and paste that. And that, yeah, that's part of the challenge, right? Maybe the issue is not so much ends justifying the means, but just acting out of self-interest, right? Maybe that's the issue. So, hey guys, great stream. I enjoyed our time this evening. You guys had some great ideas. I'm looking forward to digging into this topic a little bit more, right? And I think there's going to be some interesting stuff here. VidPro, I could keep this going. Haha, joining earlier next time. No, me too as well. And I'm enjoying the conversation. I've got other obligations I need to get to, so I can't go further. Perk says, for me, it's cutting off. Well, hopefully the recording is clean, Perk, and maybe you can catch the recording afterwards, right? All right, you guys are fantastic. I appreciate you all so much. I hope you have a great night, a great rest of your week. Air horn, but oh, come on. Much love to you, CalMagic.
VidPro Dad just resubbed for 1 month.
Gifted sub to VidPro Dad. Much love, much love. Thank you, CalMagic, for all of your love and support of the channel over the years. Appreciate you so much. God bless you. And pray for you and your continuing your family and all the challenges you have there. Much love to you, brother. But you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Have a great rest of your week. God bless you. And maybe we can see you this Sunday as we go to try and preach this passage in a way that would glorify and honor God. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all again real soon. Take care. God bless. Bye.